Imagine waking up in a world with no supermarkets, no restaurants, no kitchen gadgets, only raw nature. Yet somehow, humans not only survived but developed the most complex organ in the known universe: the human brain. What fueled this leap in intelligence? Was it just survival instincts, or did the secret lie in what our Stone Age ancestors ate? Today, we uncover the surprising Stone Age diet that didn't just keep humans alive, it may have supercharged their brain power. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. You're standing on an African savanna 2 million years ago. There's no shelter, no weapons that look anything like the ones we know today, and no guarantee of food or water. Yet somehow, the creatures around you, early humans, are about to spark a transformation that will change the course of history. Here's the big question. How did a relatively weak species, without claws or sharp teeth, end up building rocket ships, smartphones, and the internet? The answer, surprisingly, might start with what was on their plate. Anthropologists and scientists studying fossil records noticed something fascinating. Around the same time our ancestors' diets shifted, their skulls, and more importantly, their brains, began to grow dramatically. About 2 million years ago, the human brain started expanding at a rate unlike any other species. That's not a coincidence. Welcome to Before Flame. Fire. If you enjoyed traveling back in time with me, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next journey into our ancient past. Think about it. Your brain today uses about 20% of your body's total energy, even though it only makes up about 2% of your body weight. That's like having a tiny engine that demands premium fuel all day long. Early humans didn't have energy drinks or multivitamins, but they figured out how to fuel this engine naturally. And the way they did it is far more surprising than most people think. So in this first chapter, we'll uncover the mystery. What made their brains grow bigger, faster, and smarter than ever before? And how much of it had to do with the diet they followed out of necessity, not choice? When scientists piece together the story of human evolution, they often start with bones. Fossilized skulls tell a silent, powerful story. Over time, human brains tripled in size compared to our primate cousins. But here's the twist. That didn't happen because our ancestors were simply smarter. It happened because something in their environment gave them the energy to grow those brains. Archaeological digs reveal cut marks on animal bones, suggesting that early humans cracked them open to scoop out fatty marrow, a calorie-rich goldmine that other predators often ignored. Then came evidence of stone tools used to scrape meat, crack shells, and even fish bones found far inland, hinting that seafood might have been on the menu. Why does this matter? Because brain tissue is expensive to maintain. Imagine running a high-powered laptop with no charger, it would die fast. Similarly, without dense sources of fat and protein, a big brain is useless. Scientists believe the shift from a mostly plant-based scavenger diet to a more varied menu rich in animal fat, organ meat, and eventually seafood, was the spark that gave our brains the energy they craved. But diet wasn't the only piece of the puzzle. Bigger brains also meant new challenges. They needed cooperation, problem-solving, and communication to secure food. Hunting large animals wasn't a solo mission, it required teamwork. In other words, food didn't just fuel the brain, it forced social bonds, language, and strategy to evolve right alongside it. So every cracked bone, every fire pit, and every sharpened stone tool we uncover today is more than an artifact. It's a breadcrumb trail leading us back to the very fuel that powered human intelligence. If animal fat and marrow gave our ancestors the raw energy their brains needed, then fire was the game changer that turbocharged it all. Think about it, raw meat and plants are tough to chew and digest. Cooking not only made food softer and safer, but also unlocked way more nutrients in every bite. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham even suggested the cooking hypothesis, which argues that fire wasn't just about warmth or protection, it was the secret weapon that fueled brain expansion. By predigesting food through heat, our ancestors could extract more calories with less effort. That meant more energy for the brain and less time chewing leaves like chimpanzees, who can spend up to 6 hours a day gnawing on plants. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. Fire didn't just change the menu, it changed human culture. Gathering around a fire meant sharing food, telling stories, and planning hunts. Suddenly, mealtime wasn't just about survival, it was about connection. Those nightly gatherings may have been the birthplace of language, bonding, and imagination. So when you put it all together, the Stone Age brainpower mystery starts to make sense. First, access to dense nutrients like marrow and seafood provided the fuel. Then, fire unlocked new levels of efficiency. Finally, social cooperation around meals amplified intelligence even further. By the end of this evolutionary chapter, humans weren't just another animal competing for scraps. They were innovators, storytellers, and problem solvers. And it all started with a surprisingly strategic approach to food. When most people think of the Stone Age diet, they picture a muscular caveman gnawing on a giant hunk of meat, maybe a mammoth leg roasted over fire. But here's the truth. The real menu of our ancestors was far more diverse, surprising, and strategic than Hollywood wants us to believe. For decades, diet fads like Paleo have tried to recreate what early humans ate, but many of these modern versions are oversimplified. They focus heavily on lean meat and vegetables while ignoring a critical fact. Stone Age humans ate what was available in their environment, and that changed constantly. If you lived near the coast, seafood like shellfish and fish could have been your main calorie source. If you were inland, you might rely more on game meat, marrow, roots, and seasonal fruits. In colder regions, fat was king. In warmer ones, wild plants, berries, and nuts were staples. The Stone Age menu was not one size fits all. It was an adaptive survival toolkit. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Evidence shows that our ancestors sought out the highest calorie payoff for the least amount of effort. They weren't chasing lean chicken breasts. They were after fatty cuts, organs, marrow, and brains of animals.
Why?
Because fat and nutrient density meant survival, and more importantly, fuel for that demanding brain. So the first myth to bust is this. The Stone Age diet wasn't just about hunting mammoths. It was about balance, diversity, and finding energy-rich foods in whatever form nature provided. And the real superfoods of the Stone Age might shock you. If you could sit down to dinner with a Stone Age family, you might be surprised, maybe even a little uneasy, at what ended up on your plate. The superfoods that fueled our ancestors weren't kale smoothies or protein bars. They were things modern people often ignore, yet they packed a nutritional punch unlike anything in today's processed diet. Take organ meats, for example. While most of us today stick to muscle cuts like steak or chicken breast, early humans went for liver, heart, kidneys, and even brains.
Why?
These organs are rich in vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats that muscle meat simply can't match. To our ancestors, tossing them away would have been like throwing gold into the trash. Then there's bone marrow, that fatty, calorie-dense treasure hiding inside bones. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans cracked open bones specifically to get to it, often after scavengers had taken the meat. That marrow was like nature's energy bar, full of nutrients critical for brain development. And let's not forget seafood. Along coastlines and rivers, shellfish, fish, and even seaweed provided omega-3 fatty acids, essential for brain health. Some scientists argue that without seafood, the human brain may never have reached its full potential. Even plants, often overlooked in caveman diet myths, played a vital role. Wild fruits, nuts, seeds, and tubers weren't just fillers. They offered fiber, antioxidants, and seasonal energy boosts. Unlike today's domesticated crops, these plants were smaller, tougher, and packed with more micronutrients. So the Stone Age pantry wasn't limited or boring. It was rich, varied, and tuned for survival, a menu designed by nature itself to optimize human resilience and intelligence. One of the biggest surprises about the Stone Age diet is how balanced it really was. We often imagine our ancestors as purely carnivorous hunters, but the truth is they weren't eating steak 3 times a day. Their survival and their brain power depended on a careful mix of protein, fat, and yes, even carbohydrates. Here's why: too much lean protein without fat can actually make you sick. Anthropologists call it rabbit starvation, a condition early explorers noticed when diets were too high in lean meat. Our ancestors seemed to instinctively know this. They prioritized fatty cuts, marrow, and organs rather than just filling up on muscle. Fat was the brain's premium fuel, delivering dense calories and essential fatty acids. Protein still mattered, of course. Hunting and scavenging provided amino acids that built muscle, repaired tissue, and supported growth. But it was never the whole story. Carbohydrates, often dismissed in modern fad diets, were also crucial. Wild tubers, fruits, nuts, and seeds gave quick energy, fiber for digestion, and seasonal nutrients. What's fascinating is how this natural balance mirrored what the brain required. The fatty acids supported neural development, the protein maintained physical strength, and the carbs kept energy levels steady. It wasn't about following a strict diet plan. It was about responding to the environment, season by season, and extracting the maximum nutrition from every available source. In other words, the Stone Age menu wasn't extreme. It was practical, balanced, and surprisingly sophisticated. And that combination may have been the secret sauce that allowed human intelligence to flourish. Walk into any modern supermarket and you're surrounded by an overwhelming abundance of food. Shelves stacked with cereal boxes, aisles of frozen meals, neon-colored snacks, and sugary drinks at every corner. It's convenient, sure, but here's the problem. Most of what we eat today would be completely unrecognizable to our Stone Age ancestors. Our modern diet is dominated by processed foods, refined sugars, and industrial seed oils, ingredients that simply didn't exist for 99% of human history. Instead of nutrient-dense organs, marrow, or fresh wild plants, we rely on packaged products that are calorie-heavy but nutrient-poor. In other words, we've gone from fueling the brain to fooling the brain. So what happens when you compare the two? Studies suggest that the explosion of modern health issues, from obesity and diabetes to depression and even cognitive decline, is linked to this dietary shift. Meanwhile, traditional hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today, like the Hadza in Tanzania, show far lower rates of these diseases. They eat a mix of wild game, tubers, honey, and berries, not chips and soda. But here's the tricky part. We can't simply go back to eating exactly like our ancestors. The world is different now. Our food supply is industrialized, our lifestyles more sedentary, and wild mammoths aren't exactly roaming the streets for dinner. Still, the principles behind their diet, whole foods, nutrient density, seasonal variety, offer valuable lessons we can apply today. So the big question becomes, can we realistically adapt the Stone Age diet to modern life, and if so, how? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next section. If there's one thing the Stone Age diet teaches us, it's that food wasn't just fuel, it was medicine for the brain and body. And compared to that, modern diets are shockingly deficient. Think about omega-3 fatty acids, the building blocks of brain health. Our ancestors got them from fish, shellfish, and even wild game. Today, many people rarely eat seafood, and instead rely on processed oils that inflame the body rather than nourish it. The result? Rising cases of depression, anxiety, and memory decline, conditions strongly linked to poor fatty acid intake. Or consider micronutrients. Organ meats provided vitamin A, B12, iron, and folate in concentrations far higher than a standard steak. Yet in modern diets, organ consumption is almost non-existent. Instead, we pop supplements, hoping to fill the gap. It's as if we've replaced nature's multivitamin with a capsule. Even fiber tells a story. Early humans consumed a wide variety of fibrous roots, seeds, and wild fruits, which supported gut health. Compare that to today's refined carbs, white bread, pasta, sugary cereals, stripped of fiber and nutrients. The gut microbiome, which scientists now know is crucial for immunity and brain health, suffers as a result. So what's the takeaway? It's not about mimicking the past bite for bite. It's about recognizing what's missing from our plates and bringing back the nutrient density our brains and bodies evolved to thrive on. More fish, more fiber, more whole foods. Less sugar, less refined junk, less empty calories. By making these shifts, we're not just eating better, we're reconnecting with a biological blueprint millions of years in the making. Here's the truth. We can't rewind the clock and live exactly like Stone Age humans. We're not hunting mammoths or foraging wild berries by hand. But what we can do is borrow the wisdom of their diet and adapt it to our modern reality. Step 1 is focusing on whole, unprocessed foods. If your great-great-grandparents wouldn't recognize it, chances are your Stone Age ancestors wouldn't either. Fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, fish, and meat in their natural forms, these should form the foundation. Step 2 is rethinking fat. Instead of fearing it, we should prioritize the healthy fats that fueled our ancestors' brains. Fatty fish, grass-fed meats, avocados, olive oil, and even bone broth. These provide the dense, nourishing calories the brain craves. Step 3 is about variety and seasonality. Early humans didn't eat strawberries in winter or bananas year-round. Their diets shifted with the seasons, which meant diverse nutrients throughout the year. By rotating foods and eating what's local and fresh, we can mimic that natural rhythm. And finally, step 4 is mindset. For Stone Age humans, eating was communal. Meals weren't scarfed down in front of a screen, they were shared, talked over, and ritualized around fire. Reclaiming that sense of connection during meals may be just as important for mental health as the food itself. So no, you don't need to live in a cave or ditch modern life to benefit from the Stone Age diet. You just need to remember the core principle. Feed your brain the way nature intended. From cracked bones filled with marrow to seafood rich in omega-3s, the Stone Age diet was never just about survival. It was about fueling the most powerful organ humans would ever possess, the brain. Our ancestors didn't count calories, chase diet trends, or read labels. They simply ate what nature provided, and in doing so, unlocked the intelligence that built civilizations, art, and technology. Today, we live in a world of abundance, yet so much of our food leaves us undernourished. The lesson from the Stone Age isn't about copying their meals bite for bite, but about remembering the fundamentals: nutrient density, variety, balance, and connection. When we eat closer to how we were designed to, we don't just support our bodies, we honor the very evolution that made us who we are. So here's the real challenge for all of us. If the way we eat shaped the human brain in the past, what could changing the way we eat do for our brains today?